All right, welcome back indeed. Dr. Joe Schwarz is with us, host of the Dr. Joe Show, Sundays at 3 here on CJAD, and director of the McGill Office for Science and Society, and of course, recipient of the Order of Canada. So, Dr. Joe, let me start by asking the question. I'm not sure that we got to talk about this or not. The decision a couple of weeks ago now, red dye number 3 banned in the U.S. I think I saw you write something on this suggesting, you know what, let's all just kind of slow down for a second here. It's not necessarily an issue here. What's the deal?
Right. I did write an article for the Gazette on it with great detail. And I mentioned there that as a general rule, I'm not in favor of food dyes because they don't add anything, right? They don't have any nutritional value. They're just cosmetic. So if there's any issue with them, I would agree to remove them. I mean, I would like to remove them even when there's no issue because they essentially direct you to eating foods that are of poor nutritional quality, right? I mean, where do you find food dyes?
Right.
You find them in candies and cake frostings and, stuff like that. On the other hand, I'm in favor of good science. And when I look at the sort of the supposed science on which red dye number 3 is being banned, it just doesn't hold up in terms of being a problem. And I really went to the trouble of looking up the original studies on which this decision was made. And those studies were done way back in the 1980s. They were done on animals. And in fact, it was only male rats, not female rats, not gerbils, not dogs, not any other kind of animal that was affected by red dye number 3. And the mechanism by which these male rats were affected, that mechanism of toxicity does not apply to humans. And furthermore, the amount that was given to the rats was thousands of times more than what any human would be exposed to. And then the other study that was carried out in 1990, that they constantly talk about, on which they based this ban, was again done on rats. It was done on male rats, but this time they didn't even detect cancer in the rats. All they detected was a change in the thyroid hormone levels. And they assumed that a change in thyroid hormone levels means that the thyroid gland is being more active. And if it is more active, it's more likely to undergo changes, which can be cancerous. It's kind of a stretch. So I don't think that the science stands up on which the red dye number 3 was banned. But on the other hand, I don't mind it being banned because it would encourage people to eat foods that I don't think should be a big part of the diet.
Okay.
So that's where the story is. And, if people want more detail, I gave it to them in the Gazette because, there's always more to the story once you start scratching the surface.
Yeah, so unless you're knocking down 2-3 jars of maraschino cherries every day, there's really not a major concern here.
Well, actually, the maraschino cherries, that's another mistake that was made in the literature. They're not even dyed with red dye number 3. They're dyed with red dye number 40. So it doesn't even apply to that.
So how bad is red? I don't want to ask. Okay.
Okay, but anyway, we also discussed RFK a couple of times already.
Yeah.
And, his hearing is going to be tomorrow to see if he's confirmed. I want to read you something that just came out. It's a letter from Caroline Kennedy, JFK's daughter, who, of course, has a pretty good reputation. She was ambassador, so she kind of knows what she's talking about. And she called her cousin, Robert Kennedy Jr., a predator who is addicted to the attention he gets from airing dangerous views on vaccinations. She called on lawmakers who will be questioning Mr. Kennedy at his confirmation hearings to become the nation's health secretary on tomorrow. They called on the senators to reject his nomination. She cited his lack of experience, misinformed views on vaccines, and personal attributes. In the letter, she described how he led other family members down the path of drug addiction. Quote, his basement, his garage, and his dorm room were the centers of the action where drugs were available, and he enjoyed showing off how he put baby chicks and mice in the blender to feed his hawks.
Oh.
Ms. Kennedy wrote. It was often a perverse sense of despair and violence, but she just says that he did overcome his drug addiction, and he admitted to that. but she says that the collateral damage was extensive and that his views on vaccination are totally unacceptable, and that Bobby has gone on to misrepresent, lie, and cheat his way through life. That's what she wrote. And I think the evidence backs that up. He is just not competent enough to be leading a major agency like that. And, we're even before he has been confirmed, we've already seen him sowing the seeds of destruction. Based upon his views, Trump has already taken action and has stopped the Centers for Disease Control and the FDA from sending out their reports, their health reports, which normally doctors look to guide them in terms of treatments. He has stopped funding of several types of research, which Kennedy does not approve of. He thinks that research should be directed, towards alternative remedies instead of the kind of cancer studies that they are doing. Now, Kennedy's not totally wrong. It's been said that even a broken clock is right twice a day. So, his views on improving, quote, wellness by, emphasizing diet and exercise, etc., that's fine. And also his animosity towards the drug pricing in the U.S. is also on the right track because, in the U.S. they really are paying through the nose for their drugs, which are available more cheaply elsewhere, including in Canada. But just because he gets these two things right doesn't mean that he should be given a pass on all of the stuff that he has said about vaccinations and unproven alternative therapies. So it's interesting to see his cousin, Carolyn Kennedy, come out so strong in this.
Although it seems to me, we know they were not, obviously, they didn't get along for a while. And, sadly, Joe, we've seen, I don't want to make this political, we've seen even some of the people we thought would never get, actually approved, actually get approved. I'm not surprised if he gets approved at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. For some reason, which I fail to understand, Trump has his hands around the neck of all Republicans, ready to throttle them, and they're scared of him. They're scared to oppose anything. I do not believe that the 240 or whatever Republican congressmen there are, that they all believe that Trump is on the right track. I don't think that that's true. They're just jumping on the bandwagon because they are scared to oppose him.
Regardless, that's just the state of U.S. politics right now.
It is. We're seeing the American empire crumble in front of our eyes, and I think these Republicans are going to realize what they have done in putting Trump into this position.
I'm not sure how he got here by starting to talk about minerals, but I understand what you're saying, and I'm expecting the text to start coming in, which is tell Dr. Joe to that's going to happen.
Well, let it come.
Yeah.
And, I've had that before. I stick to science. Well, the world doesn't work like that. Everything that surrounds us is involved in our life, including the politics. And the politics cross over into science. And when you have people who don't know what they're talking about having a major voice in how science should be conducted, that absolutely needs to be talked about.
And that's where we will leave it today. Dr. Joe Schwarz. Joe, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, Aaron.